Oh my God. The draw for the round two of the Swiss stage has happened. It has concluded. If I refresh this page here, all the games will appear. But let's just really quickly, let's just fast forward through this. So we have all the 1 and 0 teams. So we have the T1, C9, GENG, JDG, G2, Weibo, LNG, and BLG. They will face against each other. And of course, all the other losers, the 0 and 1s, will face against each other. And you could not ask for a more spicy draw. It is insane. It's gonna be chaos tomorrow. It's gonna be so much chaos. I'm so excited that even my voice is kind of fixed. Uh, even my sore throat is getting fixed. It's insanity. So we got the first draw being Weibo against G2. It's a it's a matchup that Weibo versus G2 um that can go either way. You know, G2 defeated Korea's fourth seed Damwon, and now they will face LPL's fourth seed in Weibo. And yeah, I guess I can see this game going either way. We get the Psy against G2 again. Um, so it's a game that either team can win, and I'm super excited because think about this: G2 avoided like some of the stronger teams like GENG and JDG, and if G2 wins, they go to 2-0, and they have uh, three chances. They would play best of threes to advance to get to three victories overall, and they will play at least one best of three. If they lose that, they will play another best of three, and if they lose that, they will play another one. So they have if G2 wins against Weibo, they will have three opportunities to win at least the one best of three they need to advance to the knockout stage, which is huge because people didn't really think that G2 would make it. And this is a prime opportunity for them to actually do it. Of course, they could have even gotten an easier draw versus C9, of course, which was probably like the only other the easier draw they could have gotten. Um, sorry about that. But regardless, G2 versus Weibo is a big matchup for both of those teams, actually, not just for G2, of course. Like what I said about G2 also applies for Weibo Gaming, of course. And um, again, as I said, the seventh and eighth places, in my opinion, would be played again for G2, Weibo, and Damwon Kia. And because G2 and Weibo are one of them guaranteed to go to 2-0 now, it gives them such a big head start to get to those three victories. So this is a massive matchup. Uh, it's as massive as G2 versus DK, and now have G2 versus Weibo Gaming. Huge matchup. But this is this is only the appetizer because afterwards we got BLG versus JD Gaming. Insanity, man. This is insane. We got BLG versus JDG, the spring finals of Korea, the MSI finals, and almost summer finals. It ended up being, of course, JDG versus LNG, but it's China's number one versus China's number two. JDG versus BLG as the second game. Like, wow. You cannot ask for a more hype matchup than this. It's insane that one of those teams will be 1-1 after tomorrow. It's insane. Um, but oh shit, sorry about that. But it does not end there because the next matchup is LNG versus C9, probably the most or the least hype matchup. Uh, you would expect that LNG will dispatch of Cloud9, of course, and yeah, I don't think there's much to say about this, which leaves us to the last matchup, which will be, of course, GENG versus T1, which is basically the JDG versus BLG, but even more hype. Why? Because GENG and T1 have been up each other's throat for like what, 2 years now? It's been GENG versus T1 in spring 2022, summer 2022, spring 23, summer 23. They played against each other at MSI. Like, it's insane. You get JDG versus BLG. You get GENG versus T1. Two super insane games. You get G2 versus Weibo, which is insane in terms of standings. Of course, you get the LNG versus C9, which is kind of a mismatch, but it's insane games. You could not have asked for a better draw than this. Like, the only other way you could have gone is maybe if you had GENG and JDG face each other, but short of that, like, it's an insane draw. It's an insane draw. It doesn't stop here though, because on the 0 and 1 teams we get TL versus NRG, NA versus NA. Insane. You get NA versus NA. Like, how do you do that? Freakish. And then we get D plus Kia versus KT. Damwon versus KT. The only two Koreans out of the 8 teams that exist in there, they get matched against each other. It's freaking insane. It's as if it's staged. It feels staged. I'm not gonna lie. It's insane, the draw that happened. And of course, the other two games is Mad Lions versus BDS. So you had to have an EU versus EU in here, and Fnatic versus Gigabyte Marines. So I'm just going to now refresh this page. There you go. We have the times as well. And let's just see what's happening. So we have, out of the 4 Korean teams, they will play against each other in GENG versus T1 and KT versus Damwon Kia. So right off the bat, let's begin from the first game, right? So you have G2 versus Weibo, which, as I discussed earlier, it's huge for the standings, right? One of those teams will go to 2-0, and then they will have 3 opportunities by playing 3 best of 3s at most. They need to win at only one of them for them to advance, so that's massive. And then you get JDG versus BLG, and it's really weird that one of those teams will have to lose tomorrow. I think I kind of believe in G2. I kind of believe that G2 will win over Weibo. Um, Even though I think it's as close to a 50-50 as you can get, I think G2 will take this tomorrow. They will have momentum from yesterday, or from today, I guess. I think JDG versus BLG. I think JDG will take this one. Um, if you know recent histories of any indication, JDG has always beaten BLG this year, so I guess the smart money is on JDG. Of course, C9 versus LNG. I think you take LNG any day of the week, of course. And then GENG versus T1. Uh, GENG is definitely the better team, but and based on today's performance, GENG showed that they are an even better team than T1. But it's best of ones. It's GENG versus T1. So you never know what's going to happen. The smart money is on GenG, but I can see like T1. I can see like a world where T1 wins this game. Um, Honestly, I think it's like an 80-20, 80% chance for GenG to win this, maybe even higher. But yeah, I can see a world where T1 wins this game because it's a best of one, right? If it was a best of three, I could say that GenG is even more likely, but it's a best of one, so I guess T1 can win this. So yeah, we have the first four games are the 1-0 teams, and moving on, we have Energy versus Team Liquid. I don't know how those teams matched up in NA and what happened between them. From what I understand, is Energy ended the regular season with a record of 9-9, which means they were not that dominant. So I think Team Liquid will actually take this one. Um, KT versus Damwon. Oh man, this is insane. Um, if the LCK is of any indication, you would say that the smart money is on KT to win. But man, oh wow, it's so hard to predict because KT had a strong fight against BLG. Damwon had a strong fight against G2. I can see, I can see this game. Anybody can win this game. The smart money is on KT, but I would not be surprised if Damwon wins this. And isn't it sad that one of those teams will have to be 0-2 after tomorrow? Because look at the schedule. Like Damwon had to face G2, they lost, which makes sense, right? Even though Damwon is a strong team, and now they will have to face KT, which also makes sense if they lose, right? And it's sad because there's a potential. There's a world where a team like C9 can go to 2-0, even though it's quite unlikely. But like DK or KT at the same time can be 0-2 and have to fight for their lives, right? So it's insane to think about that one of those teams will be 0-2 and will be at risk of elimination. With that said, let's say KT wins, right? And Damwon goes to 0-2. Then Damwon would have to play one of the losers from these 8 teams here. So let's say TL wins, so Energy is a loser. Let's say here that BDS wins, and so Mad Lions is the loser, and Gigabyte Marines is the loser against Fnatic. Damwon will have to play a best of three against either Energy, Mad Lions, or Gigabyte Marines, which I do not see Damwon losing any of those games, right? um, but before we get to that, between Mad Lions and BDS, I think BDS is riding a huge wave of momentum coming in from playing stage and having the early game lead against JDG can give them some big pointers on what they need to do to just beat Mad Lions. And Mad Lions coming off from a defeat against C9 is probably not going to be good for the psyche, and I think that's why BDS is going to win. And I think Fnatic is the smart team to bet on against Gigabyte Marines, of course, who I do not see ever having a chance against Fnatic. Um, so if I make an paint, online paint with the teams that will be 2-0 tomorrow, so we will have G2, in my opinion. We will have JD Gaming, LNG, and GenG. These will be the 2-0 teams. after tomorrow, in my opinion. And then we will have the 0 and 2 teams, which will be Energy, DK, which is sad. Like, oh my god, it's so sad. Um, Mad Lions and GAM. And the 1 and 1 teams are the ones that remain. So, Weibo, KT, T1, C9, oops, Team Liquid. Who else is there? Fnatic, BLG, and who am I forgetting? BDS. So after tomorrow's games, this is my prediction on who is going to be at what record. So, um, if this is indeed true, then we can get some super spicy games in all of those groups, right? Um, in the bottom here, you can say that there will be two best of threes. You would expect Damwon to beat any of the opposition, and you would also expect GAM to lose to any opposition. So let's say if it's DK versus Energy, you would expect Damwon to win, so Energy will be out. Mad versus GAM, you would expect GAM to lose, so GAM will be out of the tournament as well. Um, and then there will be some best of threes here to decide who advances. So, for example, if it's a G2 versus LNG, which seems to be like the easiest opponent, you could see G2 advancing through a best of three. And then this means that you would get a JDG versus GENG matchup, which would be super hype, but also super weird. Or you could get like something like GENG versus G2 and get a rematch of the summer finals between those two teams, and so on. Like, there are so many possibilities about super hype games. At the same time, you could be having some sort of like on the 1 and 1 bracket where you have one, um, you have two European teams, you have two North American teams, two Chinese, and two Korean teams. So you could get another edition of, regional games. So KT versus T1, for example, or Weibo versus BLG. Again, super hype and spicy matchups, or you can get some sort of like, T1 versus Fnatic, historic matchup, or T1 versus C9. Like those teams always end up in the same group stage, so you can get kind of like a past worlds experience with this. Um, but yeah, regardless, you can get so many spicy matchups. But these are my predictions for tomorrow games, and I'm pretty sure tomorrow's games will be as exciting, if not even more, as the today's ones. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and liking this video. And I'll catch you tomorrow with tomorrow's recap.